So good morning to all of you. Today, as part of our discussion on current topics and current affairs, let us look at ethics. As all of you are very well aware, what UPSC nowadays is doing is, especially in your ethics paper, whether it is section A or case studies, they are mostly again concentrating on current issues, current ethical dilemmas, and your solutions to those problems. So here two things are important. First one is you must have good conceptual knowledge. Second, your ability to link concepts to current events. This is what UPSC is looking from you. Apart from this, if you look at UPSC mains papers in the last 3 to 4 years, in your general essay also, at least 3 to 4 topics are either directly or indirectly related to these ethical issues. So today let us try to find out what are they and what are the present ethical dilemmas faced by the societies and how to overcome those dilemmas and what should be your approach to those dilemmas. So if you look at this point of time, the entire world is facing this COVID crisis, corona crisis. We can see that these crises have brought into focus the nature of our societies, they have brought into focus our livelihoods and also the challenges that we were forced to encounter because of these societies. So obviously, for the coming main examination in January, these things are going to occupy central part. It can be about our materialistic societies. It can be about our traditions and customs which led to the present crisis. It can be about our definition of happiness. It can be about our corporate ethics. It can be about our ethics in medical profession. It can be about the moral responsibility of the state towards citizens, moral responsibility of the state towards citizens. It can be about the weaknesses related to global governance, It can be about collective responsibility of citizens. And most importantly, as we study in ethics, it can be about ethics in international relations. So we will have to find answers to all these questions. We should look at all these things. Apart from this, what this COVID crisis have done is that it led to other unanticipated consequences. Of course, some of them are anticipated, some of them are predicted. It led to economic crisis, serious economic crisis. The crises are so severe that they are much worse than what the world had witnessed during a global depression of 1930s or the subsequent Second World War. And these economic crises have led to other problems, other psychological issues, thanks to loss of jobs, livelihoods, increasing competition. It led to these problems like suicides. So we have to look at all these things from a completely macro perspective, and at the same time giving focus to individuals. Finally, we have to talk about solutions to all these crises. As we have mentioned repeatedly, nowadays if a world history has to be written, as we say, it is BC and AC, not BC and AD. It is not the BC, before Christ and after death. It is about before Corona and after Corona. That is the kind of impact it has. So what are the challenges, especially from ethical point of view, moral point of view? What are the problems and what could be the solutions? So let us look at all of them, all these aspects. Let us try to find answers to all of them in today's class. Let us see them. So what we say is that since the start of this human civilization, human beings have been trying to find answer to this question: what is the essence of human life? Why are we taking birth, and what should we do before we die? And on the basis of the contributions of many philosophers and thinkers, it was realized that happiness should be the essence of human life. Human beings must be happy. They must remain happy. But the question that comes up is, what is this happiness? How do we define happiness? That is where the problem is. Especially with the advent of Industrial Revolution, we started defining happiness in terms of materialistic comforts. We say that we can gain happiness only in terms of materialistic comforts. This market philosophy started dominating the lives of the people. People are under the conception, or you can say misconception, that they can really be happy only when they have these materialistic comforts. So what they have done, that is what we say about life. To gain something, you must give up something else. You must sacrifice something. That is why we say that life is all about making choices. It is all about taking decisions. It is all about making choices and taking decisions. That is where normally ethics will come into picture. So what do we say here? A moral person, an ethical person, takes his decisions on the basis of what is called what is good and what is bad. on the basis of what is good and what is bad. Now, this market philosophy says that you should always take decisions on the basis of what is beneficial for you and what is not. Forget about good and bad. It is said that, this is what normally they say, these are the things which you have to quote in your ethics papers also. These are the statements. It is said that those who cannot fight war are the only ones who talk about peace. Since you cannot fight war, that is the reason why you are talking about peace. That is the kind of a place that we are willing to give to peace. Those who cannot become rich are the only one who talks about values. That is the kind of societies in which we are living in. So what really matters at the end of the day is how rich and powerful you can become. If you are not becoming rich and powerful in your life, it is a case of sour grapes. Then you talk about values. So those who are defeated, those who have lost the battle, are the ones who talk about these values. That is the perception in our societies. That is the reason why whenever someone talks about values and ethical and moral life, we start denigrating those people. We start demeaning those people. We start disrespecting those people. We will believe that they are useless. Why? Because those who have values and morals are considered useless in materialistic societies. They are considered useless for market philosophy. People like Adam Smith, people like Keynes, economists like Milton Friedman, they have glorified this market philosophy and made it acceptable to everyone. It had become universal. It had become what is called part of universal values. So, the only business in life that you have to talk about is business and nothing else. Every aspect of our life must be defined in terms of business. And what is this business? It is all about P&L, profit and loss. That means whatever the decision I take, whatever the choice I make, it should always be defined in terms of this profit and loss. That means I will be called a wise person, an intelligent person, astute businessman, or a politician only when my decisions are profitable from this materialistic point of view. So that is how these ethics have evolved, especially with the emergence of these materialistic societies. The question is for how long it can continue, for how long it will continue. So Darwin's principles had become the way of life. Survival of the fittest, survival of the strongest. Kautilya's what is called a Matsya Niti, what we call it as a big fish eating a small fish, had become the order of the day. And most importantly, or more worryingly, it had become the norm, it had become the tradition, it had become the value which is being cherished by everyone in the society. In materialistic societies, we must remember Poor people have no place at all. Let us accept this crude reality of life. In materialistic societies, poor people have no place at all. Why? Because they are not a part of market. I'll just give you, one or two examples. These examples are a little bit, I would say, controversial, but to understand the things, you must empathize with these examples. So many people, migrant workers, have died after this imposition of lockdown. There was this 14-year-old girl. She walked 900 kilometers from Hyderabad to her house in Odisha. Just before reaching the house, she died. How many of our leaders who are in positions of power had come on Twitter and expressed their deepest condolences and grievances, expressed their sorry and sympathy? How many of them would really bother to go and meet the family and announce a compensation, including top constitutional authorities, including Prime Minister? On the other hand, take another example. There is this young man from Bollywood, highly successful in his profession, and he commits suicide. He commits suicide. Suicide at any point of time is a cowardly act. So there will not be any kind of sympathies for those people who commit suicide. But if you look at the entire spectrum, right from the Prime Minister to everyone else, started their campaign, expressing their deep condolences. That is what I am talking about here. Here, this useless young man, when I say useless, I am not talking from a materialistic point of view. He is highly successful. As we have said, in market philosophy, materialistic point of view, highly successful means you have money, you have name, fame, position, everything. That is how we define success. So he is highly successful. When you are earning around 60-70 crores at the age of 34, when you are so popular all over the country, when the entire world is at your feet, literally, then what do? You commit suicide. And then you can see police seriously investigating the suicide, looking into the claims. You can see the entire social media blaming so many other people for the suicide. You can see right from the Prime Minister expressing their serious condolences. Whereas this little girl has not got even a simple footnote in the entire book. That is what I say when we talk about our societies, our misplaced priorities. Everyone who is anyone was willing to come forward and express their opinion about this suicide. Whereas hundreds of those people who have died while traveling back to their villages, to their homes, have not got even a simple mention, even a single second of our time. That is the kind of societies in which we are living in. No police officer is willing to look into this unfortunate state killing, I would say. It's a complete failure of the state. No one will be made accountable. No judge would take up the case on a suo motu basis here, making the state culprit. No media house will make it a headline for continuously. No social media posts will be there to express their grievances. This is where our society is moving in the wrong direction. It will continue to move. As we study in our ethics, what we say is that natural tendency of any society is to move towards entropy. That is what Hindu philosophy says. Anything that takes birth has to die. So is the case with the societies. So with the passage of time, the only thing that is certain is destruction of our societies. Can we prevent? Yes, we can prevent. Should we prevent? Yes, we should, we must. But are we preventing them? The answer is definite no. Instead of preventing them, we are promoting them. Instead of stopping them, we are propagating them. This is where the problem with our society is. The problem is much more bigger than corona. This corona is nothing but the outcome of a much serious problem that is facing our societies. As Mahatma Gandhi says, which we have forgotten, it is all about a simple living and high thinking. Now we have changed it, high living and no thinking. He always talked about living close to nature. How many of us nowadays can wake up to the sounds of the birds early in the morning, especially in the cities? None of us. Even people in villages also have forgotten these things. What this lockdown, corona has brought into focus is what we are missing. We are missing this life, living close to nature. We have so far moved away from nature that for the future generations, this nature would become an academic exercise only. It would become an academic exercise only. They would never be able to see the practical realities. Why? Because anyway, thanks to technology, we are living in virtual reality. And thanks to this COVID crisis and everything, even education also has become online. Everything, even our classes also nowadays are only online. There is no scope for any physical interaction. There is no scope for any direct conversation. So everything has become virtual reality. We cannot differentiate between what is real and what is not. We are living in this virtual world. So what is happening is that the more we move away from nature, the more we are moving towards destruction. Moving towards destruction. So what is this linkage here? What kind of linkage that we can find here? Especially from ethical point of view, what is the linkage here? As we have said, this market philosophy propagated by all economists, whether classical, neoclassical, monetarists, you name it, everyone. It says that human beings' happiness lies only in materialistic comforts. The more materialistic comforts you possess, the more happy you are. Whereas this ethical and moral life demands that we should shun, we should sacrifice, we should leave all those comforts. That is what Mahatma Gandhi talked about, simple life, living close to nature. So to get these materialistic comforts, what we must do? We must exploit nature, which includes trees, rivers, forests, land, water, sun, everything, and then animal kingdom also. So what we have to do? We have to use them. We abuse them and misuse them. For example, look at this. Our food habits have changed. Earlier, we used to, there are two kinds of people, that's what we say. Those who eat to live and those who live to eat. Those who eat to live, their basic objective, their basic purpose of eating is to sustain their livelihood, sustain their life. I'll just give you again one simple example here. We have these ancient sages, these holy men. So one of these ancient sages, he was asked, what should be our motto when it comes to food? What should be our objective? What should be our essence when it comes to food? He said that as long as we look for taste in our food, we are destroying ourselves. We are destroying ourselves. That is the reason why these ancient sages, what do? They deliberately ignore taste. Whether it is salt, these are the things which add more taste. Oil or spices, everything. They ignore taste. They say that we eat food without salt, because for us food is only has that kind of importance that it needs to sustain our life. Beyond that, it has no importance. That is the reason why they mix all the items in the food and they eat it, so that they will not get the taste of it. This is what, this is very extreme, but that is how they used to live, very close to nature. And they would eat mostly raw vegetables only, not even cooked ones, which are available in nature. So this is what, is it possible for us to do like this? No. But what we can do is, we can control. And that is where, we talk about self-control. That is where we talk about leading an ethical life. Whereas maximum percentage of people in the world, they live only to eat. They look for all kinds of tastes. They look for all kinds of varieties. And in the process, like what they have done in China, they destroyed the delicate food chain. Plants are the food for small animals. These small animals are the food for other bigger animals. So that is what we say about food chain. So when you start eating all the animals by destroying the food chain, what will happen? You are destroying ecological equilibrium, which is sustained delicately by nature. Then what happens? The kind of crisis that we have now. The kind of crisis. So you can look at, our present day societies. Go back to pre-liberalization days, before 1991. We don't have any of these McDonald's and burgers and pizzas and everything else, all these fast foods. They are neither fast nor can we call them as food. Complete misnomer. And what it happens? First of all, our digestive system is not tuned to digest all these fast foods. It can result in so many health problems. It can result in so many unwanted health issues. Not only that, most of these fast food chains are part of what we call this food chain only, destroying the food chain. So what we are doing, when Mahatma Gandhi spoke about vegetarianism, it was not a blind faith or a blind belief. It was about observing the societies, observing the ecological systems. And that is the reason why he always spoke about this self-control, which is the essence of our ethics. On the other hand, these materialistic societies, they are completely against it. They say that this materialistic society is a make-believe society, wherein you are forced to believe that something which is luxurious, which is a luxury, they force you to believe that it is the most essential part of your life. It is the most essential part of your life. So, you can see here, right from each and every aspect of our day-to-day life, right from our eating food habits to everything else, we are forced to believe that we must live only to eat, to taste different varieties of food, to look into. So unless we do these things, these societies believe that we will be not part of a cultured and a so-called developed societies. These, what is the reason why these pandemics and epidemics have occurred more frequently in the last century only? As we have said, it is the direct consequence of these materialistic societies. The next important question that we are asking here is, are we learning anything from these examples? Not at all. We are not able to learn anything. Unfortunately, as we say, our human history, it has shown very little evidence of people learning from their mistakes. And if we don't learn, what is the outcome? Outcome is what we are facing now, destruction. We could never imagine a situation, fortunately or unfortunately, it is only the present generation that has witnessed so many things. It is only the present generation that has seen tsunamis on such a big scale, that has seen frequent occurrence of these severe cyclones and floods. And of course, we can say that since the beginning of civilization, nobody has experienced this kind of complete lockdown, wherein you are forced to sit at home, closing the four boundaries of your house. Why the situation has come up? We have to ask the questions. We will never ask why, because even in spite of all these events that are taking place right now, what we are discussing in the recent times, we are discussing border issues. We are discussing about global hegemony, especially US and China. We are discussing about suicides. We are discussing about how to revive our GDP. We are discussing about how to attract FDI. We are discussing about how to get back to normalcy. What is this normalcy? Nobody knows. Nowhere else, I am talking about in the entire world, anybody is talking about the causes, the reasons, and the solutions. Already you can see Europe is trying to get back to normalcy. Most of the countries in Europe have opened their borders, and they wanted to forget about corona as a bad dream, a nightmare. America has opened its borders irrespective of corona. The number of cases are going up, let it go, we'll get back to our normalcy. In India, we also are only talking about these things. So, that is where the problem is. So, we are trying to look at the entire issue only from, as I said, a materialistic perspective. This corona had become such a big issue not because it is related to our health. It has become a big issue because it is related to our economic health, prosperity. There were much more dangerous viruses earlier than corona. Why become corona had become such a big headache for the countries around the world? Because it spreads through human beings very easily. It has hit human beings where it hurts them the most. We are social animals. We always live together. It has hit us where it hurts the most, this corona. That is the reason why it has become such a big. Earlier we had viruses, SARS was there, AIDS was there. They were not as big as corona because they don't spread so easily. Whereas corona had become such a big thing. So instead of looking at the genesis of the problem, and we believe that this corona should be tackled by health experts, rest of the society can easily forget. Once the vaccine comes, we can get back to normalcy. That is, we can go back to our materialistic world. We can go back to our materialistic world happily. We can think about our stock markets. We can think about our GDP and per capita incomes. We can think about our foreign investments. We can think about our border issues. Let the society go to hell. As long as these things are there, everything is fine. This is the kind of attitude that we have in our society. From ethical point of view, this is what we are. Now, the question is, can we survive for longer periods with these kind of societies, with this kind of destruction that we are causing? In the last 20 years, all the major viruses had come from China only. Why only China? Why? Because it is deliberately and consciously destroying the ecological systems. And please remember, in those last 20-30 years, China is undoubtedly the most progressive economy in terms of GDP and per capita income. In 1990s, India and China are almost at par in terms of our per capita incomes. In 1960s, when we fought war with each other, both of us were underdeveloped economies. Now, China can claim to be a middle income country, and in terms of GDP, it can surpass America in the near future. So it is the most powerful country, definitely. But what is the price that the rest of the world had to pay for this kind of growth is what we are not at all looking at. What is the price? If China has to pay the price on its own, nobody would ask, because they are gaining and they have to lose something also. But it is the rest of the world that is paying the price. It is the rest of the world that is paying the price for the actions of America and China. Why? Because, as we have mentioned, what really matters is, at the end of the day, GDP growth rates, per capita incomes, and foreign investments. This is where. So, for how long can we continue with this kind of progress that the world is making at this point of time? Can there be any solution? If at all there is some solution, who will offer the solution? Who can implement the solution? And who will take the much needed initial steps to find solution? Whether we like it or not, there cannot be any macro solutions to these problems. There cannot be any global answers, because every person has to look at himself. Every individual has to analyze his own position and come out with solutions. As we have mentioned, we keep on mentioning, with these materialistic societies, these materialistic comforts are so alluring to us that we become completely blind to whatever that happens in and around us. When we say that we become completely blind, 99% of the time we deliberately close our eyes, thinking that if I am the person who is doing all those things at an individual level, what kind of impact it will have on the entire society as a whole. For example, I have money, I have centrally air conditioned house, so I will keep my house completely air conditioned 24 hours. What kind of impact I have on the entire society? It does not really matter in the CFCs that are released when these air conditioners are operating. I believe that they are so minuscule that it does not matter to ecology, environment. But what we don't remember, what we deliberately forget here is that when you talk about the water in the ocean, the entire water in the ocean is made up of only these drops. Each and every drop of water will be adding more to the volume. In the same manner, every small mistake committed by us will only be adding to the woes of nature, to the problems of nature. This is what we say responsibility towards society. This is what the essence of ethics. This is what also the essence of life. We have to ask the question, whenever, as Mahatma Gandhi says, Mahatma Gandhi went a little bit higher in terms of moral philosophy. He said that whenever we do something, whenever we take any decision, we must always look at, we must always try to find answer to the question, whatever I am doing, will it be helping the poorest person that I have come across? That is on a higher plane, much higher plane. Whereas as an average human being, you may not look at from that perspective. It is too ideological. As an average human being, what you have to say is that you can change a little bit. Will it be causing any kind of harm to other persons or not? Either directly or indirectly, whatever may be your action. If we ask this question, then we can control everything. We can move towards what is called a sustainable livelihood based on ethical and moral principles. So it automatically gives us the inner strength. It automatically makes us much more moral and ethical in our life. The next step will be, whatever I do, will it be helping other people or not? As Mahatma Gandhi talks about it. The next step. We don't have to go to the next step. As one of the ancient Indian philosophers, his name is Bhartrhari. He had said that there are three kinds of people in this world. At the lowest level are those who are not afraid of deceiving others, cheating others, exploiting others, killing others for their own benefit. They are the lowest category. He called them Nicha Purush, lowest level. At the middle level, he called them as Madhyam Purush. Here, they are self-centered. That means they only think about their benefits. But at the same time, they also don't think about others. They don't cause any kind of harm to others also. For the society, they are neither good nor bad, because they don't cause any harm to others. They don't do anything illegal and immoral, unethical. At the same time, they don't do anything for the society. They only think about themselves and their family and everything. At the topmost level, what he calls them as Uttam Purush. They are the ones who live for the society. They are the ones who die for the society. Self-interest will be the last thing on their mind. This is what Mahatma Gandhi was talking about. And very difficult to find these kind of people. That's why they are ideals, ideal human beings. We don't find them, rarely if at all. Otherwise we don't find them. That is what Abraham Maslow calls them as self-actualized people. That is what Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita calls them as self-actualized persons. They are the highest level, we don't find them. So what happens? There is every tendency of this second category going into the third category rather than moving up to the first category. And that is where the problem with our society is. Again, please remember, these are things which you have to quote in your ethics papers. Why we are witnessing denigration of values and ethics in our societies? What happened with the materialistic societies is that maximum number of people who belong to the second category are moving towards the third. Why? Because, as we have mentioned, in materialistic societies what really matters is materialistic comforts. So what we are doing, this second category used to be a very significant group in our societies. Earlier, because before industrial revolution there were no comforts and luxuries as such. Now this second category has almost disappeared. Maximum people belong to this category. This first category did not exist right from the beginning of civilization. Very few people like a Gautam Buddha or a Jesus Christ, historical personalities, or to some extent Mahatma Gandhi or Vivekananda or a Mother Teresa. Very few people. But the problem for our societies is that this middle group, which used to be very significant, has seen drastic decline. That is where the problem is now. Now the materialistic societies, as UPSC keeps on asking in our ethics paper, almost every alternate year the question will be there. In our materialistic societies, what happens is these ends become much more important than means. So when ends become more important than means, most of the time these means are always defined in terms of immoral and unethical. Because what is important for you is whether you have become rich, powerful or not. As a politician, the question that UPSC normally asks all the time, as a politician, your basic objective in life is to reach positions of power. Please remember, politics is not about service. Politics is not about service to the people. Politics is also a business like any other business. The only thing is that in politics the risk is much higher, and of course the reward is also much better compared to business, because it is the politics that controls the business. So politicians consider politics as a completely business proposition in terms of cost benefits. So what do? They divide the society in the name of religion and caste. If it benefits them to win elections, they give free subsidies, knowing fully well that they will destroy the economic systems, but they don't mind if it gives them few more votes. So at the end of the day, nobody is concerned. As Mahatma Gandhi is one of the 7 sins talk about politics without principles. At the end of the day, every section of the society, as I have said, are moving from the second to the third category. This is where the problem lies. And this problem is manifesting itself in much bigger issues, whether it is global recession, whether it is increasing poverty, whether it is widening economic inequalities between the countries and within the country, between the people. You can see the irony here. When it is expected that India's GDP would be going down by at least 4.5%. That is what IMF has predicted, minus 4.5% this year. How could that one business organization can get around 1.6 lakh crores of rupees of foreign investment? Now, the government, what it has done, it kept on increasing the petroleum prices, saying that government also needs money to survive. What is the amount of tax that is going to be paid by that business organization on those 1.6 lakh crores of rupees of money that has come in? If you are an ordinary daily wage earner, if you are a salaried employee, government will take away a significant portion of your income in the form of tax. And how much tax that business organization is going to pay to the government? If they were to take 30% as tax, the government would have got at least easily at least 45-50,000 crores, which it could have used. They don't have to increase the taxes on petrol, but they won't do it because government says that they work for poor people, but in reality they only work to protect the interests of rich and powerful sections of society. And with that kind of investment that he is getting, 1.6 lakh crores, how many people will get employment? It is anybody's guess. The investment will be going only into the service sector, wherein employability is very, very less. Even otherwise also, they don't employ more number of people. That is where we talk about ethics. That is where we talk about ethical governance. And unfortunately, this is not we are talking about now. So coming back here, so as we mentioned, what is the solution? Ultimately, we can keep on talking about the problems. We can keep on talking, analyzing the issues. So what is the solution to all these things? The solution is simple. As I said, self-control, self-discipline. The solution is very simple. Developing those morals and values which decide our choices, which influence our decisions. Are we in a position to do so, especially living in a materialistic society? As the question that UPSC asked repeatedly in your ethics paper, probity in public life, the most difficult thing that you can expect. You cannot expect an IAS officer to be honest, efficient, sincere, disciplined, empathetic, service oriented, when the rest of the entire society is characterized by corruption, inefficiency, indiscipline, and materialistic comforts. This IAS officer unfortunately belongs to the same society, and you cannot expect him to imbibe all those qualities. He belongs to the same society which values success than goodness of a person. In materialistic society of a person, in materialistic societies, as I have mentioned, a person who is good is always considered useless. Why? Because he will not add anything to the materialistic values. For example, you go to a doctor with a small problem, you go to a corporate hospital. When the doctor says that you don't have any major issues, just take simple medicine for your headache, immediately you will be dismissed by the management. Why? Because he was not professional in his approach. What do you mean by professional? He has to ask you to go through at least 100 different tests, different scans, and they will prescribe hundreds of medicines. You go with a problem of headache, they will ask you to go for bypass surgery. Then only you are following what is called professional ethics. That is the kind of society in which we are living in. So on the other hand, if the doctor says that take only the paracetamol and you don't have to come here, that is the kind of society in which you are living. I will give you one more very good example. After this lockdown, in the last 3.5 months, we have seen drastic changes. All these OPDs in major hospitals were closed. Does it mean that suddenly people have become healthy? The number of tests that are conducted in hospitals, especially these laboratories, that come down drastically. Does it mean that people are finding solutions to their problem on their own without approaching the doctors? So what does it really mean? It means only one thing, that this medical profession had become or had lost its values long time back with the so-called corporatization of hospitals. The same thing you can see anywhere else, everywhere else. The people are not going for tourist purposes. They are not unnecessarily traveling. They are not eating out. For 3 months people have remained in the houses. They are not eating out. Does it mean that they have lost something? On the other hand, most of them have improved their health also. So that is where what I am saying here is that we have to separate what is necessary for our livelihood and what is important from the point of view of materialistic societies. If as a human being we can make this distinction possible at our individual self level, then we can easily find solutions to all those problems. Of course, it is going to have a huge negative impact on the society. No economist would like this kind of solutions. No policy maker would appreciate this kind of suggestions. No country would favor these things. But ultimately, this is what we say the solution to the problems that we are facing now. Is it necessary for us to expand our food basket in the name of tasting varieties of food, even though it's not at all important for our survival? The question that we have to ask. It will definitely impact the food business. But again, as Joseph Schumpeter says, it is all about entire economic activity is all about construction through destruction. When some professions become outdated, new ones will come up. So we can always think about many constructive activities. We can always come out with many constructive solutions without harming the society, harming the nature, harming the environment, harming the ecological systems, and most importantly, killing other animals and human beings. We can easily do that. But unfortunately, right from the days of Gautam Buddha to Jesus Christ to Mahatma Gandhi, Everyone spoke about the same thing. Unfortunately, none of them succeeded. The only thing they have done is they have sacrificed their life. Jesus Christ has sacrificed his life. So is the case with Mahatma Gandhi. They fought for societies which should remain peaceful, which should function on the basis of moral and ethical principles. And what the society has done? They killed them. As Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, it is very, very difficult to understand this essence of human life. Even if you understand, to put into practice is almost impossible. Why? Because the vices that Bhagavad Gita talks about, 6 different vices, are the ones which rule our behavior, actions, decisions as well as life. As we talk about them in our ethics: Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya. And all these 6 vices have their origin in what is called desire. That is the reason why Gautam Buddha says desire is the root cause of all evils in this world. Is it possible for us to control our desires? Is it possible for us to regulate our wants? Is it possible for us to discipline ourselves? That is where the problem is. That is what ethics always talks about it. It says, have this kind of a moral and ethical life, have self-discipline, ensure that your decisions will not hurt anyone, either directly or indirectly. Make sure that whatever you do, it will only be helpful for the society, both in the short term as well as in the long term. If all of us can think and do like this, there is no reason why we can move towards a peaceful, sustainable, developed, and most importantly, moral societies. Can we do it? It's not $1 million question, it's $1 trillion question. Should we do it? It's a no-brainer. We should do it. Can we change our priorities? Very difficult. As I said, we are living in a society which has more concern for a useless young man who commits suicide than any sympathy for a 14-year-old girl who walks 900 kilometers. Most of you who are listening to this lecture may not be knowing about these things. That 14-year-old girl walking for 900 kilometers, just dying in front of her house. Why? Because, as I said, society is only concerned about successful people, so-called successful people. In what way Sushant Singh Rajput is successful, we don't know. But from materialistic society point of view, he is successful. From the moral perspective, from the ethical perspective, from the perspective of the spiritual life, is he? We always know what the answer is. If you are a coward, you can never be called a successful person. And who is much more brave, who is much more courageous here? The girl who undertook that 900 kilometers of a walk. And we don't appreciate those people. Why? Because, as I said, we are only concerned about rich, famous, and successful personalities. As long as we continue to live with these kind of misplaced norms, as they say in Hindu philosophy, salvation is impossible. You can never have any salvation. Definitely materialistic success is required. But the question that we have raised earlier, what is the price that we are going to pay for that materialistic success? Why? Because as we study continuously in our entire ethics paper, This materialistic success is only a journey without any destination. This is very important. These are the statements as I keep on saying, which you have to quote in your ethics paper and essay papers. This materialistic success is only a journey without any destination. Why? Because there is something higher, there is something bigger to what you have achieved. If you are in the top 10 rich persons in the world, that means there are at least, if you are in the 10th position, there are 9 more people. When you reach the topmost position, you want to retain that position because tomorrow someone else will come. When you are Prime Minister for 10 years, you want to be Prime Minister for 5 more years because there is no end. This journey, this materialistic success is only a journey without any destination. Normally we say that we can be happy only when you reach your destination, complete happy. In materialistic successes, there is only a journey without any destination. So it will provide you only what is called a temporary satisfaction, not a permanent happiness. If you earn 100 crores, you always look at a person who has earned 1000 crores. If you become an MP, look at the minister. If you become cabinet minister, you will be looking at prime minister. So there is no end to this. And we have to find where we can put a full stop to these things. Because life is only full of commas when it comes to materialistic success. We have to find what is that real happiness that can give us complete satisfaction also. That also makes us realize the essence of our life. That should be our journey. Our journey should not be about achieving these milestones in terms of materialistic success. Our journey towards about finding out what is our ultimate destination. As the essay topic that was given last year in 2019, I think the first or second essay, it is what we have to find out. We have to find out what our destination is, final, ultimate, and create the path in such a manner that we reach our destination. So what, ultimately what we can say here from philosophical perspective, the difference between human beings and animals, God has given us the power to think, and this power to think and analyze has made us realize the importance of values. Not only that, He also had given us a heart, two important parts of our body, heart and brain, mind. He said that you must use your mind and brain to analyze, to think. And this heart He has given us to feel the emotions. And what we are doing, materialistic societies only expect you to use your mind. What materialistic society look for is only your IQ. In the process, we have completely forgotten our heart. We have forgotten emotions and sentiments. And whenever we have these emotions and sentiments, most of them are only for immediate short-term benefits. When you are looking for love, you are not looking for any true love. You are looking for love most of the time you are looking for security in the name of love. You are not looking for anything that is pure in our life. So why? Because here when it comes to decision related thought also, we are only taking the help of our brain. We should separate both of them. And as Swami Vivekananda has rightly pointed out, again this is what you have to quote in your ethics paper. He said that on any day I prefer a person with a kind heart than a person with an intelligent mind. Why? Because an intelligent person can use his intelligence for either good or bad. As we have mentioned in the beginning itself, all our decisions are driven by self-interest. So an intelligent person will always use his mind, brain to benefit himself materialistically, and in the process he will deceive people, manipulate people. Again, this is where you have to differentiate between what is ethical and what is legal also. He may be doing the things in a perfectly legal manner, but his decisions, are they ethical or not? When a doctor in a corporate hospital prescribes many tests for you, for your health problem, it is completely legal. You cannot go to a court, consumer court also saying that. Doctor says that I believe that there is some problem in this particular part of body, that's why I asked for a scanning. Even a consumer court also cannot say anything. It is perfectly legal. But is it ethical? Doctor himself knows that none of these things are necessary. So that is what we are saying here. We stopped using our heart. Our heart has stopped beating for other people. That is where the problem is. Why? Because we are using our knowledge only to benefit ourselves. That is what Vivekananda also has said. He said that I don't want intelligent people. I don't want people with IQs. Unfortunately, materialistic society requires only those people. I prefer a person with a kind heart. I prefer a person whose heart melts looking at the problems of people. Again, I give you the example. Look at all our the behavior of all our civil servants, IAS officers and IPS officers during this entire lockdown. All of them are extremely efficient in terms of either enforcing this lockdown in a brutal manner. Police would beat up all those people who walk on the streets. Especially, police would take a lot of pleasure in beating those people, who are these migrant laborers walking on the streets. And whatever they are doing is completely legal. Why? Because the government has clamped complete lockdown. So anyone walking on the streets, anyone without the permission of the government, they can be punished. But it's legal. But is it ethical, moral? That is the question that we have to ask. This is the kind of dilemma that we face as we study in our ethics paper as an administrators. And what do they do? 100 out of 100, they will only take recourse to legal option, not to the moral or ethical. Since they are walking on the streets without the permission of the government, they should be punished. They should be arrested. They should be beaten. They will be severely beaten, which is completely legal. And tomorrow they will get medals from the government also for being very efficient cop. You will get a medal from the government for being an efficient district magistrate for enforcing a complete lockdown in your district. But are their actions moral? Do they ever want to know the cause of the people walking hundreds of kilometers? They don't want, because that is beyond their duty. They are only enforcing rules and regulations without what we call using their heart. And please remember, all those people got into services using their mind only, intelligence. They have never used their heart in their entire life. So they don't know what does it mean by having a kind heart. As Delhi High Court recently has said, it had asked these government officials to go and visit those quarantine centers. Please go and visit those centers, stay there for 1 or 2 days. That is what High Court has said. Why? Because it is the responsibility of the governments to run the quarantine centers, so forget about the kind of conditions they have, the people they have. What is the reason why people are forced to come out of those quarantine centers and walk hundreds of kilometers to their hometowns? When the governments are supposedly providing best of comforts to those people. That is where governance in India is a big failure. Development administration, welfare administration in India is a big failure because, as we have said, this is what is missing. As Swami Vivekananda always says, kind heart. Why? Because since your childhood, none of your education system, right from your childhood, focused on these aspects of life. As we say, the basic problem with our education system is that it teaches you how to be successful in life. It teaches you how to become a successful engineer, doctor, lawyer, accountant, and a civil servant. It never tells you why you should be a good person. It never teaches you the importance of values and ethics and morals in our life. That is the reason why, as we say, the problem with our education system is it always produces professionals which are demanded by capitalist societies. It never produces human beings which are needed for survival of civilizations. That is where the problem. Everything right from the day era, as we study in our ethics paper, all the sources of ethics have become redundant. Parents teach their children how to be successful. Colleges and universities teach students how to be successful professionals. And government and the society only talks about success. And religion, unfortunately, talks about everything except morals and ethics. Religion demands and commands blind faith. Most of the religions in the world demands and commands only blind faith. They never tell you to lead ethical and moral life. They say that blindly follow our traditions and customs. So where is the question of us learning these ethics and morals, which ultimately is leading to what is called denigration of our societies, which is leading to decline in our value systems, which ultimately is leading to the kind of problems that we are facing. So if we believe that this corona crisis is a one-time, one-off event, we are deluding ourselves. If we want to find out the real reason, it is there in front of us. It is not a one-off event. It's going to recur again and again and again, whether we like it or not, thanks to the kind of societies in which we are living in. Are we willing to change ourselves? Are we willing to transform ourselves? Are we willing to learn the right kind of lessons? And most importantly, are we willing to recognize the real cause and reasons behind these kind of disasters? That is where the future depends upon. As an optimist, I believe that we are, but as a pragmatic person at the same time, unfortunately, we may not. We may be willing, but we may not be learning. Why? Because as we study in ethics, the influence of evil is always much more powerful than that of goodness. Evil is always much more attractive than goodness. If I ask you, who are the role models for you? You will name film stars and cricketers and politicians and businessmen. None of you will name any person who has sacrificed his entire life for the sake of the society. Why? Because, as I said, ultimately what really matters in the materialistic society is only success. And evil always attracts us much more. Take the newspapers. If there is any good news about someone doing something really great, we don't show any kind of interest. On the other hand, anything which is bad, it always attracts our attention. This is where the problem is. We have to find out the essence of life. We have to find out what is real happiness for us. We have to find out what is our ultimate destination. We cannot confuse our journey with destination, which we do in a materialistic society. And we have to find out what we want from our life. That is where, as I said, at the end of the day, the ocean is made up of these small drops of water only. Even if we, as we study in our ethics paper also, even if we as human beings, as a single person, as an individual, leads this ethical and moral life in our day-to-day life, we might be influencing people, knowingly or unknowingly. We might be changing someone which is good, which can be better for the society. Had Mahatma Gandhi thought about defeat when he fought a lone battle in South Africa, India would never have got independence through peaceful struggle. We should not ignore the power of an individual. We can be the torch bearers, and we can be the beginning of this journey called life. We can influence others, we can motivate others. It is in our hand whether we want to do it or not. That is what ethics tells us. As we study in our ethics paper, ethics will never take decisions for us. Ethics will only help us to take decisions. Ultimately, we have to take decisions. And our decisions will determine our future. It will determine our present, future, and everything else. Whether we want to do it or not, it is in our hands. Maybe when we pray to God next time, we can only pray one thing, we can only say one thing. Please give us a heart that bleeds when it sees the problems of other people, that feels the pain of other people, that makes us feel bad about other people. Automatically, the society will be good. That can be our prayer to God. And that is where I think we can end our discussion today. Ethics ultimately is all about ourselves, our willingness, our ability to control our desires, our destination, our journey, and our choices. And we can definitely influence the world with our choices. And all these things you will have to write in your ethics paper, where it is in your ethics paper or in your essay paper. As I said, this year it is going to be more about all these things, thanks to the kind of changes that we have witnessed this year. So make sure that you are including all those points which I have mentioned now in your answers. Make sure that for a change, you are writing answers from the core of your heart rather than using your brain. It can give you more marks ultimately. And ironically, if you follow these ethics, whatever that we have done now in the last 90 minutes or so, it will give you materialistic success also, in the form of clearing this examination. You can use that as an instrument to change the society the way you like. So if you have any doubts, as I said, you can post your doubts on our Telegram channel. I will try to clarify all your doubts. But make sure that this year it's going to be a different kind of question paper in your ethics, as well as in other papers of GS also, as well as essay. Thanks to the kind of crisis the world is witnessing now, they will ask you to analyze these things from ethical perspective and come out with your own solutions. Thank you very much.